page 223, paragraph 38, about the death relinking thought process. So in the death relinking thought process, the javanas occur only 5 times because they are weak at this moment. And then when death takes place while present objects which have entered the avenue of the senses are still existing, then the rebirth linking and life continuum of the new existence also take a present object. Now, the object taken by the last thought process, the death thought process, can be present or past. Now this diagram shows the object that is present. So this diagram is one of the many death relinking thought processes possible. So here I don't know that you can see the color. So this is the present visible object as karma nimitta. Now, since it is present visible object, it lasts for 17 thought moments. But if we count from its arising, there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there are only 14 thought moments in life number 1. So we may call it present life. And then after death, cutie in that life, there arises patisandhi or relinking. So in this thought process, the Panchadvara, Vajana, and then javanas take this object, this present object as object. But the cutie takes the object taken by the patisandhi and bhavanga in this life. So there are equal signs here. So that means cutie takes the same object as the patisandhi in this life. So karma or karma nimitta or gati nimitta. But the patisandhi in the next life, which follows immediately, takes the present object because it is still present. The present object is object. And not only patisandhi, but true bhavanga moments also take the present object as object because the present visible object lasts until the second bhavanga. So, when death takes place, while present objects which have entered the avenue of the senses are still existing. So when death takes place, when this visible object is still existing, then rebirth, patisandhi, and some bhavangas. Here in this particular diagram, 2 bhavangas take the present object as object. Now, after the second bhavanga, this object disappears, the present object disappears. And so the third bhavanga takes this object, but not this object, the past object, the visible object which is past. So, beginning with bhavanga number 3 until bhavanga number 16, the object taken is the visible object which is now past. Therefore, the object of sense sphere rebirth linking, that means the object of karma vajra patisandhi, is a sign of karma or a sign of destiny which may be present or past, and which is taken through one of the 6 doors. And after the 16th bhavanga, there is a thought process beginning with Manodhara Vajana and then Javanas. And these Javanas are called Bhava Nikanti, that means attachment to existence. So these Javanas are Lobha Mula Chetas. So there are 7 moments of Javanas and then Bhavanga again. So in this next life, the Patisandhi takes visible object, present visible object as object, and Bhavanga, and also Bhavanga in the whole life and the Chuti take the past visible object as object. So you can say that the object of Patisandhi and then Bhavangas and Chuti is the same, visible object. The only difference is for these 3 moments the object is present, and for the other moments the object is past. While Kama Nimitta and Gati Nimitta can be, while sign of karma and sign of destiny can be presented through any of the 6 doors, and they can be present or past, karma is always past. And it is presented only through mind door. So that is the difference. So karma, kama nimitta and gati nimitta. Karma is past and it is presented through mind door. Kama nimitta and gati nimitta are of 6 kinds of objects. So taken through one of the 6 sense doors, and they can be present or past. So if you can put colors like this, it will become more easily understood, because the color identify the same thing. So the Patisandhi Bhavanga and Chuti in life number 1 takes karma or karma nimitta or gati nimitta as object, and Patisandhi in the next life takes the present visible object as object, and Bhavanga, 2 Bhavangas also the present object. And beginning with Bhavanga 3 and all Bhavangas and Chuti in the life number 2 take the past visible object as object. Therefore, the object of Chuti in one life is not the same as the object of Patisandhi in next life. And then these 7 javanas, Manodhara Vajana and 7 javanas take the Patisandhi as object. And Patisandhi here means not only Patisandhi Chitta, it also means Cetasikas along with it, and Rupa born of Karma. Now in the 6th chapter, you will study material properties. So there are some material properties that are born of or that are produced by Karma, and those that are born of Chitta, and others are born of Utu or temperature and Ahara or food. So at the moment of conception as a human being, let us say, there arise the Patisandhi Chitta, which is a Vipaka Chitta, right? Kamajara Vipaka or Santirana. So Vipaka Chitta, and then Cetasikas going along with it, and the 30 particles of matter. There are 30 particles of 30 kinds of material properties arise. So what we mean by Patisandhi here is Patisandhi Chitta, Cetasikas, and Rupa born of Karma. And there are 30 kinds for human beings, and also other those who are born out of the womb of mother. So in the new life, the first jhana process takes the Patisandhi as object, and these jhavanas are always lobha mula chetas. On the next page, I read it last time also. With regard to the sign of destiny, and there is the difference of opinion for different teachers. So it is said in the book that in the case of the sign of destiny as object, different teachers advance conflicting interpretations. Some commentators, including the author of the Vibhavini Tika, that is the visual Tika on the Abhidhamma Sangha, hold that the sign of destiny is necessarily a present visible form, apprehended at the mind door. So that Vibhavani Tika takes the sign of destiny to be only rupa, only visible object, and it is presented, or it is taken only through mind door. They interpret Acharya Anuruddha's statement in the text as meaning, when the object is a sign of karma, it may be perceived at any of the 6 doors, and it may be present or past. When it is a sign of destiny, it is perceived at the 6th door, that is the mind door, and is present. But the reading as it is, as we find it, can mean anything. Not as interpreted by Vibhavini Tika. So we can have another interpretation of it. And so the other teachers do not accept that interpretation. So other commentaries, including Lady Seattle, reject this interpretation and as forced and too narrow. They argue that Acharya Anuruddha must be taken at his word as holding the wider view, that the sign of destiny can be past or present and may appear at any of the 6 doors. So that is taken by Lady Seattle and actually other ancient commentators as well. They argue that Acharya Anuruddha must... Lady Seattle asserts that when the Abhidhamma text commonly speak of the sign of destiny as a present visible object appearing at the mind door, this is said by way of its usual manifestation. Or what Seattle meant is it must be taken as a general statement. So does not mean that it does not become manifest in other ways. That means not only rupa. For example, as the groans of those in hell, that means sada, sound, or as celestial music or fragrance. So they can also be signs of destiny, according to the Lady Seattle. And in the story of the father of Sona, which I told you last time, first he saw the flowers, and that is Kama Nimeda. And then later on he saw the celestial nymphs, and he may even experience the fragrance or whatever of the celestial flowers also. And also in the story of Dhammika Upasaka, and the sign of destiny appears to him in the form of celestial beings coming to him in their respective chariots, and then asking them to step into their respective chariots. So according to Lady Seattle, the sign of destiny can be of any kind and taken through any of the 6 sense doors. Okay, this is the Rupa Vajra, Kama Vajra, dead and Kama Vajra Patisandhi. Now next is Rupa Vajra Patisandhi. Rupa Vajra, rebirth consciousness. In the case of rebirth linking in the fine material sphere, The object is a concept and is always a sign of karma. Now, when a person practices meditation to get jhana, so he takes the kasina object or the corpses and so on, or beings as object. And when he takes them as object, they later become what is called counterpart sign. Counterpart sign means the exact replica of the object he is contemplating on. Now, in the case of the earth kasina, first it is the real earth kasina, the real earth, and he contemplates on it as earth again and again and again, and then after some time he is able to memorize the image, so he could see the image in his mind's eye without looking at the disc. And then he dwells upon that sign again and again until that sign becomes free from blemishes, shining like a disc of a moon and so on. So at that time it becomes a panyati. First, it is the earth kasina, so it may be when you say earth, it is paramatta, ultimate reality. But later on it becomes an image, and so it is panyati. And dwelling on that panyati, taking that panyati as object, jhana arises. So his jhana takes that panyati as object, that concept as object. So at the time of death, that panyati is taken as the object of the death linking thought process. And so in the case of rebirth linking in the fine material sphere, the object is a concept. So as a result of jhana attained in his life, and the object of that jhana appears to him at death. And immediately after death, as a result of that jhana, he is reborn in the rupa vajra realm. And so his relinking consciousness is the rupa vajra vipaka. Since rupa vajra kusala and rupa vajra vipaka take the same object, the object of rupa vajra vipaka, which is pratisandhi there, is also the concept. So in the case of rebirth linking in fine material sphere, rupa vajra sphere, the object is a concept and is always a sign of karma. That object is called a sign of karma, not sign of destiny and not karma itself. So too in the case of rebirth linking in the immaterial sphere, the object, which may be a sublime state or a concept, whichever is appropriate, is always a sign of karma. So the object of arupa vajra pratisandhi is also a sign of karma. But here, the sign of karma may be ultimate reality or concept. Now you know that the object of first arupa vajra kusala is what? Space, right? Concept of infinite space. And of the third arupa vajra kusala, nothingness of the first arupa vajra kusala, right? So when arupa vajra vipaka arises as a result of the arupa vajra kusala, it takes the same object. So the object of arupa vajra vipaka, the first arupa vajra vipaka theta, as a pratisandhi here, is concept of infinite space. And the object of the third arupa vajra pratisandhi is the concept of nothingness of first arupa vajra theta. So in the case of the first, And the third, arubhavajara patisandhi, the object is concept. But the object of second arubhavajara kusala is the first arubhavajara citta. And the object of fourth arubhavajara kusala is the third arubhavajara kusala citta. So in that case, the object of arubhavajara patisandhi is not concept here, it is mahagata. Because rupavajara chaitas and arubhavajara chaitas are called mahagata chaitas, right? So, in the case of second and fourth arubhavajara patisandhi, the object is paramatha, object is ultimate reality, which is called here mahagata. So, the object of arubhavajara patisandhi in general is a sublime state, is a mahagata state or a concept, as the case may be. But it is always, again, a sign of karma or karma nimitta. So the object of rupavajara patisandhi and arupavajara patisandhi is always karma nimitta, sign of karma. But the object of rupavajara patisandhi is concept. And object of arupavajara patisandhi is some concept and some paramatha, some ultimate reality, or here some mahagata. Okay. Now, mindless beings. In the case of non-percipient beings, in the case of mindless beings, only the vital knowledge becomes established in the way of rebirth linking. That means only that group of rupa becomes patisandhi. So for them, patisandhi has no chaita. So for mindless beings, patisandhi means just the 9 material properties. So they are called materially reborn, or they are called beings who have matter as patisandhi. So no chaita or no chaitasikas arise at the moment of patisandhi. So they are reborn there as like statues. The only difference between a statue and these beings is that they have this jivita, life faculty, while the ordinary statues have no life faculty. Those in the immaterial planes are called mentally reborn. That is, those in the arubhavajara plane are called those who have arupa as patisandhi, or who have non-matter as patisandhi. The rest are called materially and mentally reborn. The rest, as human beings and devas, are called mentally and materially reborn, or those who have rupa as well as arupa as patisandhi. So there are beings whose patisandhi consists of just nama, and there are those whose patisandhi consists of just rupa, and there are others whose patisandhi consists of both nama and rupa. Okay, now we come to what rebirth follows what Chuti. Where beings can be reborn after death from certain realms or existences. The information given in the manual itself I mean the original Pali manual is a general information. So it is not detailed. So we have made a detailed chart. First, let us understand this general statement. Now, the translation of the first verse is not quite good. But I think it's all right. When one passes away from an immaterial realm, one may be reborn in superior immaterial realms, but not in lower immaterial realms. So here, what I want to ask is, what about the same realm? It doesn't say anything about the same realm, but in the guide, in the explanation given on the next page, it's correct. And also here, the one word is misunderstood. The Pali word param does not mean superior. It means after. So after the Arupavachara Chuti, like that. After Arupavachara Chuti, there are lower Arupavachara Patisandhis. I mean, there are Arupavachara Patisandhis except lower Arupavachara Patisandhis. So that means those born in Arupavachara realms are not reborn in lower Brahma worlds. So they may be reborn in the same realm and also reborn in a higher realm. So that is for those who die from Arupavachara realms. Why? Because when they get Arupavachara jhanas, the lower jhanas disappear. Since the lower jhanas disappear, they don't get lower jhanas after they get to Arupavachara realm. So they cannot practice lower jhanas there. It is impossible to practice lower jhanas there, and so they do not get lower jhanas there, and so they are not reborn in lower Brahma worlds. So if they are to be reborn, they will be reborn in the same realm or in the upper realms. And also not only that, and they can be reborn in the Kamavachara plane with Tihetuka Patisandhi. So after Arupavachara, after death in Arupavachara, what Patisandhis can follow? We'll come to that later when we read the chart. So 4 Arupavachara Patisandhis, and then Kamavachara Patisandhis accompanied by 3 roots. Now why can they be reborn in Kamavachara? It may be difficult to understand, because it means that they lost jhana there. As a result of jhana, they got as human beings or as devas, they are reborn in Arupavachara realm. And after getting to Arupavachara realm, they lost jhana. Since they lost their jhana, they could not be reborn in the Brahma realm, for those who lost jhana there. So they come back to Kamavachara realm. But when they come back to Kamavachara realm, their rebirth is one of the 3 rooted Kamavachara rebirth. One of the Tihetuka. Why not do Hetuka? Why not two roots? Now, in the explanation, it is said, if, however, they fall away from their jhana attainment, that means if they lose jhana there, they are reborn in the sensuous plane by the power of their excess concentration. Now, this excess concentration is not in the Arupa Vajra realm. In the Kama Vajra realm, before they die and are reborn in Arupa Vajra realm. So, the excess concentration here means not excess concentration in the Arupa Vajra realm. Because if there is excess concentration, there is always jhana concentration, right? But they lose jhana there. They fall away from jhana there. So they cannot have excess concentration there. So the excess concentration mentioned here belongs to in a previous life. So when they practice, when they get jhana, let's say as human beings, in the process of jhana, you have parikama, upachara, anuloma, gotrabhu, right? And they are called excess concentration. And before that also, what they get as concentration is called excess concentration. So, as a result of those excess concentration moments, or as a result of karma, at the moment of excess concentration, they are reborn in the Kamajra realm with 3 root patisandhis, not 2 root, because the excess concentration which they obtained in their previous life was strong, because if they are to be excess concentration, they must be very strong. So, because of the power of their excess concentration in their previous lives, that is before they are reborn as Arupa Vajra Brahmas. Now, when they die from the Arupa Vajra Brahma world and reborn, they are reborn with 3 roots, not with 2 roots and not with no roots. Okay, so one may also be reborn in the sensuous plane with the 3 root rebirth consciousness. When one passes away from the fine material sphere, from the Rupa Vajra, one is not reborn without roots. A Brahma cannot be reborn as a human being or as a deva with 2 roots. Also, a Brahma cannot be reborn with no root, right? So, a Brahma cannot be reborn as an animal, direct. Right? No. Now, there is a story in Dhammavada when Buddha saw a pig. He smiled, and Ananda asked why he smiled, and Buddha said, this pig was once a Brahma. But that does not mean that he became, not he, she. She was reborn as a pig, not direct from Brahma world, but indirectly. That means maybe first he was reborn as a human being, and then reborn as a pig. So a Brahma cannot be reborn in the human world with 2 roots or no roots. And a Brahma cannot be reborn in 4 woeful states. So when one passes away from the fine material sphere, one is not reborn without roots. After passing away from a 3-rooted existence in the sensuous plane, that is Kama Vajra. So after Kama Vajra Chuti, with 3 roots. One may be reborn anywhere. That is the power of human beings. A human being can be reborn in the 4th Arubhavachara plane, the highest plane, or he can be reborn in the lowest of the hells, that is Avicii. So a human being with 3-root rebirth, 3-root rebirth consciousness can be reborn anywhere in the 31 planes of existence. So he can go up as high as the top of the planes, as well as he can go down to the bottom of the 31 planes. So after passing away from a 3-root existence in the sensuous plane, one may be reborn anywhere. The rest, those who pass away with 2 roots and no roots, are reborn only in sense sphere realms. So, who pass away with 2 roots and no roots? Now, who pass away with 2 roots means human beings and devas. Some human beings and devas. And who pass away with no roots? That is for woeful state, right? So they are reborn only in sense sphere realms. So they are born only in Kamavachara realms. So they can be reborn with Patisandhi with 2 roots or 3 roots in Kamavachara realm only. So this is a brief statement, and it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't say any. It doesn't mention the difference of Patisandhis for those who are Putthojanas and for those who are Ariyas or who are enlightened. But we have to find out both for Putthojanas and for those who have gained enlightenment. So, for those who pass away with 3 roots in the sensuous plane, in the case of noble disciples, there can be no regression from a superior type of death consciousness to an inferior type of rebirth consciousness. So for noble disciples, there can be no regression. There can be no going down. So there can be no regression from a superior type of death consciousness to an inferior type of rebirth consciousness. So when they are reborn, their rebirth consciousness will be 3-root Patisandhi, and also if 3-root Patisandhi. All noble disciples pass away with the 3-rooted death consciousness, since without 3 roots it is impossible to have attained the path and fruit. So all noble persons, or all those who have gained enlightenment, die with 3-rooted death consciousness. Noble disciples still in training, that means Sotapannas, Sakadagamis and Anagamis, re-arise either in the same plane or in a superior plane. What do you think of that? Noble disciples still in training, non-arahants, re-arise either in the same plane or in a superior plane. Can you agree with that? Yes or no? Yes? What about Sakadagamis? If Sakadagami dies here and he is reborn as a deva, and then he comes back to Manusaloka, as a human being, right? That is why he is called a Sakadagami, once eternal. But if you take a rebirth as a human being and rebirth as devas as the same, it may be okay. Actually, this sentence applies to Brahmas only. For Brahmas, they are not reborn in the lower planes. Now, we must be careful. When it says plane, it is one thing. When it says rebirth consciousness, it is another. Now, they acquire either the same type of rebirth consciousness or a superior one. That may be for noble disciples, right? They acquire either the same type of rebirth consciousness or a superior one. Of course, those who have reached the path and fruit of arahantship do not take rebirth in any plane after that. So, there is a saying in the commentaries and in other treatises that now, in the scheme of 31 planes of existence, there are 3 planes that are called in Samoa we know that they are called Siddha Bhava, excellent planes. There are three excellent planes among the 31 planes of existence, and they are Vihapala, number 10 in the Brahma plane, and then Akanita, number 16, and topmost one, Nivasanya, Nasanya, Yatana. So these 3 are called excellent realms or excellent planes. And it is said that noble persons born there will not be reborn in another plane. So a noble person who is reborn in Vihapala will not be reborn in another plane. If he is going to be reborn, he will be reborn in the same plane. And a person from Akanita will not be reborn in any plane at all. He will definitely become an arahant and attain parinibbana. And also a noble disciple who is reborn in the uppermost, topmost realm will not be reborn in any. So they are called three excellent planes or 3 excellent existences. And in the 5 abode of pure being, right? Sodavasas. They will not reborn again in their respective realms. So they will be reborn in higher planes. And then there is one thing mentioned in the Samoha we know it, and that is Sotapannas and Sakadagamis. When they are reborn in Rupavachara planes, they will not come back here to the Kamavachara plane. They will attain parinibbana there in the Rupavachara plane. So although Sotapanna has seven rebirths, right? And Sakadagami has 1 or 2, let's say, 2 rebirths. If they are reborn in Rupavachara plane, they will not come back here. So a Sotapanna who is reborn in Rupavachara plane will be reborn in Rupavajara and maybe go up. He will not come down to the Kamavajara plane. And so they are termed Jhana Anagami. That means those Sotapanna and Sakadagamis who are reborn in Rupavajara are called Jhana Anagami. They do not come back here by the power of jhana. They are not real, true Anagamis, but they are called Jhana Anagamis. Okay, now let us go to the chart. Do you have the chart with you? Or they are in the book also. And it is very detailed. So, duty is followed by patisandhis. That means, after this duty, some patisandhi will follow. So the first page is for, not the first page, but the second and third pages also for Putthujanas, worldlings. So a Puttujana who dies from the fourth Arubhavajara plane will be reborn in the fourth Arubhavajara plane itself, and also he can be reborn in human being and 6 devas. So a person who dies from the fourth Arubhavajara plane cannot be reborn as a Rupavajara Brahma. So he will be reborn in the fourth Arubhavajara plane, or if he loses jhana there, he will be reborn in the Kamavajara plane. I mean, Kama Sukiti, human beings, until the Paranimita Vasavati, number 5 to 11. So the chart shows present bhumi, that means this life, and Chuti Cheda in this life, and then new bhumi means next bhumi, next plane, and Padisandhi Cheda, the relinking consciousness in that plane. Now, third Arubhavajara. A person who dies from that Arubhavajara plane dies with the Chuti Cheda, the third Arubhavajara Vibhaga. And he can be reborn in the third and in the fourth Arubhavajara realms, and also if he loses jhana in the Kama Sukiti, number 5 to 11. And the Padisandhi Cheda will be third Arubhavajara Vibhaga, fourth Arubhavajara Vibhaga, and Kamavajara Vibhaga, accompanied by 3 roots. And a person dying from second Arubhavajara realm, he dies with second Arubhavajara Vibhaga. And he can be reborn in the second, the third, and the fourth Arubhavajara Vibhaga, and Kamavajara Sukiti. And the Padisandhi consciousness are second, third, fourth Arubhavajara Vibhaga, and then Kamavajara Vibhaga, 4 accompanied by 3 roots. Okay, the first Arubhavajara. A person dying from first Arubhavajara plane dies with first Arubhavajara Vibhaga. He can be reborn in all 4 Arubhavajara Vibhagas, because he can be reborn in the same realm and in the upper realms. So he can be reborn in all 4 Arubhavajara Arubhavajara realms, and also he can be reborn in the Kamavajara Sukiti realm. So the Padisandhi Chetas are first to fourth Arubhavajara Vibhaga and Kamavajara Vibhaga, 4 accompanied by 3 roots. Okay. Now, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, they do not apply. So, in the book, they are omitted. But I want to put all 31 planes here, so I put them here. But they do not apply here because only who are reborn in these 5 planes. Who? Only who? Anagamis. Only Anagamis are reborn in. No Putojanas there, right? So we are now talking about Putojanas. So they do not apply here. Okay, number 22. Asanya Satta. Mindless beings. They are no duty chaita. So their duty is also metta only. And they can be reborn in Kamavajra Sukati, Manusa and 6 Devalokas. And they can be reborn, they are the Patisandhi consciousness in those realms can be 2 root Kamavajra Vipaka and 3 root Kamavajra Vipaka. They will not be reborn with 1 root. No root Kamavajra Vipaka. Because of the power of their jhana, they are not reborn in full woeful states, or they are not reborn as human beings with defects. Now we have phala. 5th, now when Brahmas die from Vihapala, they die with which duty chaita? 5th Rupavajra Vipaka. And they can be reborn in all except the 4 woeful states.
So 5 to 31, that means any plane from 5 to 31, we have phala. So you order here say 5 to 31.
Yeah.
So that means any plane on 5 to 31?
Oh, yes. They can be reborn as human beings.
How about 5 pure abode? Or asanya satta?
Yeah, they can.
So that means we have to say until 5 pure abode in here. Because it is Putojana.
Yes, they are, reborn in Vihapala as Putojanas, right? But they can become Ariyas while they are in Vihapala. And they will die there. But when they die, their duty chaita is 5th Rupavajra Vipaka.
So now if they become Arya, so it will be in another chart in here. It's called duty followed by for Arya.
Oh yes, no?
Yeah.
So how many?
So only you just include 6 planes that 5 pure abode and asanya satta.
5 pure abodes and asanya satta accepted, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. They cannot be reborn in 5 pure abodes because they are Putojanas. What about in asanya satta?
I don't think they have 3 roots, so they don't go to asanya satta. I don't know.
Because they can practice. They can practice a fifth jhana in a special way, and so it is possible.
Yeah.
And they can get Arubhavajra jhana in that existence, and so they can be reborn as Arubhavajra Brahmas also. Okay. Now, what about from Supakinha? Fourth Rupa, they die with fourth Rupa Vajra Vibhaka. Right? Yeah. The same here. So, they cannot be reborn in 23 to 27. So we should say, how do we say there? 5 to 20, 5 to 21, right? And then 28 to 31, like that. 5 to 21, 22. 5 to 22, 28 to 31. And Appamana Subha, the same. So all these beginning with Brahma Parisaja are the same. So, 5 to 22 and 28 to 31. The difference is only the Chuti consciousness. So, number 20, 19 and 18 have fourth Rupa Vajra Vibhaka as Chuti consciousness. And then number 17, 16, 15 has second or third Rupa Vajra Vibhaka as consciousness. And number 12, 13, 14 have first Rupa Vajra Vibhaka as consciousness. And the new Bhumi should be 5 to 22 and 28 to 31. Now, Paranimita Vasavati, this is highest of the 6 Deva realms. So there, after 2 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka, those not accompanied by knowledge. After 2 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka 4, 1 to 11. That is Kama Vajra, all Kama Vajra realms. And the Patisanti Chaita is Santirana, 2 and 2 and 3 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka. And after 3 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka 4, then they can be reborn in all realms, because they are 3 root Kama Vajra Chutis. So after 3 root Kama Vajra Chutis, there are all possibilities. So the rest down to Chatu Maharajika, even human beings have one more variety. So down to Chatu Maharajika are the same. After 2 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka, the new Bhumi is all Kama Vajra Bhumis, and the Patisanti Chaita is Santirana 2 and 2 root 3 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka 8. Now, after 3 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka 4, all possibilities. Now, with regard to human beings, Kusala Vibhaka Santirana 1. That is no root Patisanti. So after no root Patisanti, again 1 to 11. And 10 Patisantis actually Santirana, 2 Santiranas and 8 Kama Vajra Vibhakas. After 2 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka 4, the same. All Kama Vajra. But after 3 root Kama Vajra Vibhaka 4, all possibilities. Then Asura Kaya, that is one of the 4 woeful states. So their Stuti Cheta is Akusala Vipaka, Santirana accompanied by Ubikha, and they can be reborn in 1 to 11, and Patisanti Cheta are 2 Santiranas and 8 Kamauja Vipakas. The same with the other 3, Piti Visaya, Tirachana, Yoni, and Niraya. So, by consulting this chart, we can understand which Patisanti can follow which Chuti, and so where they can be reborn. So a person who is born in hell can be reborn in hell again, or in other woeful states, or in human realm, or in one of the 6 Deva realms. So a person who is reborn in hell can even go up to a Deva realm. And that is for Putrojanas. Now for Ariyas. On this page, the words present and new should be moved. Present Bhumi and new Bhumi. Not present Chuti Cheta and new Patisanti Cheta. Now, an enlightened person who dies from the 4th Arubhavachara Cheta may be reborn again in that 4th Arubhavachara Cheta, or he will become an Arahant and no plane at all. So he can be reborn in the 4th Arubhavachara Cheta itself, and so his Patisanti Cheta is 4th Arubhavachara Vipaka only. And an Ariya who dies from 3rd Arubhavachara plane dies with 3rd Arubhavachara Vipaka, and he can be reborn in number 30 and number 31. So 2 Arubhavachara Vipakas there, 3rd and 4th. And an Ariya dying from 2nd Arubhavachara realm with Chuti Cheta 2nd Arubhavachara Vipaka can be reborn in 29, 30, 31. And the Patisanti Chetas are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Arubhavachara Vipaka. And an Ariya dying from 1st Arubhavachara Vipaka, Arubhavachara plane, dies with 1st Arubhavachara Vipaka as Chuti Cheta, and he can be reborn in 28, 29, 30, 31. And so the Patisanti Chetas are 1st to 4th Arubhavachara Vipaka. From Akaneta, there is no rebirth. So a person who dies from Akaneta, he dies with 5th Arubhavachara Vipaka, Chuti Cheta, and there is no more rebirth for him. So he becomes an Arahant in that realm. And a person from Sudasi, his Chuti Cheta is 5th Rupavachara Cheta, and he may be reborn in a higher plane. So number 27. A person from Sudasa, his Chuti Cheta is 5th Rupavachara Cheta, and he can be reborn in 2 upper ones, 26 and 27. And the Patisanti Cheta is 5th Rupavachara Vipaka. And Atapa, from a person dying from Atapa, number 24 can be reborn in 25, 26, 27. And a person dying from number 23, Aviha, can be reborn in 24, 25, 26, 27. And his Patisanti Cheta is 5th Rupavachara Vipaka. And Asanyasata does not apply because there are no enlightened persons in Asanyasata. And then Vihapala, an Ariya dying from Vihapala can be reborn in Vihapala only, because it is the top of, it is the one of the excellent planes, and it is said that an Arya who is reborn in Vihapala, Akarnita, and fourth Arubhavajara Chetas are not reborn anywhere. So he may be reborn in Vihapala itself. And Subhakena, a person, an Arya dying from Subhakena, his Tuti Cheta is fourth Rupavajara Vipaka. And he can be reborn in 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, so accepting 22. And the Patisandhi Cheta could be fourth Rupavajara, fifth Rupavajara Vipaka, and then fourth Arupavajara Vipaka. Appamana Subha. An Arya dying from Appamana Subha can be reborn in Appamana Subha again, and also in upper planes, so 19, 20, 21, and then no 22, but 23 to 31. And a person dying from Parita Subha, fourth Rupavajara Vipaka, can be reborn in Parita Subha itself, and also in 19, 20, 21, and then 23 to 31. And a person dying from Abhasara, an Arya dying from Abhasara, his Tuti Cheta can be second or third Rupavajara Vipaka. And he can be reborn in 17 itself, and then 18, 19, 20, 21, and then 23 to 31. And the Patisandhi Chetas are second to fifth Rupavajara Vipaka and Arupavajara Vipaka. And then Appamanabha. An Arya dying from Appamanabha dies with second or third Rupavajara Vipaka, and he can be reborn in 16 itself, and then 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 23 to 31. And the Patisandhi Chetas are second to fifth Rupavajara Vipaka, and fourth Arupavajara Vipaka. And a person dying from Paritava, his Tuti Cheta is second or third Rupavajara Vipaka, and he can be reborn in 15 itself, and then Abba lands accepting Asanya Satta. And Mahabrahma, a person in an Arya dying from Mahabrahma, dies with first Rupavajara Vipaka as Chuti consciousness, and then he can be reborn in 14 itself, and then Abba Rams accept Asanya Satta. And his consciousness, Patisandhi consciousness is first to fifth Rupavajara Vipaka and Arupavajara Vipaka 4. Brahma Purohita, those dying from Brahma Purohita can be reborn in 13 itself, and then the upper ones. And those dying from Brahma Parisaja, again, in 12 itself, and then upper planes, except Asanya Satta. And the Patisandhi Cheta is first to fifth Rupavajara Vipaka and Arupavajara Vipaka 4. Now, Paranimita Vasavati, the highest of the Deva realms. So, since they are Ariyas, they die only with 3 root Kamavajara Vipaka, no 2 root. And they can be reborn in human being 5 to 21 and 23 to 31. 3 root Kamavajara Vipaka 4, their consciousness is 3 root Kamavajara Vipaka 4, Rupavajara Vipaka 5 and Arupavajara Vipaka 4. And the same with Devas until Chatu Maharajika. And then human beings, 3 root Kamavajara, and they are human being as enlightened persons. So 3 root Kamavajara Vipaka 4, they are Tuti Cheta. And they can be reborn as human beings and other beings 5 to 21, 23 to 31. So their Patisandhi consciousness is 3 root karma, Vajra Vipaka 4, and Rupa Vajra Vipaka 5, Arupa Vajra Vipaka 4. And the 4 realms, woeful states do not apply here because it is for enlightened persons only. Okay, this is the Patisandhis followed by Chutis followed by Patisandhi. So from this chart we understand where a person can be reborn. So the last let's go to page 228. The continuity of consciousness. Now this paragraph shows that the flow of consciousness goes on and on and on and on, like a wheel of a car. So for those who have thus taken rebirth, from the moment immediately following the cessation of rebirth linking consciousness, that same type of consciousness apprehending that same object flows on uninterruptedly. That means if the Patisandhi Cheta is the first karma Vajra Vipaka, then that first karma Vajra Vipaka Cheta is repeated, taking the same object as the Patisandhi. So it flows on uninterruptedly like the stream of a river. So like the stream of a river, this flows on, and it does so until the arising of the death consciousness. So until death, the bhavanga flows, but so long as there is no occurrence of a cognitive process. So actually, bhavanga flows not uninterruptedly, right? It flows uninterruptedly, but there are active thought processes arising in between the flows of bhavanga moments. So, although it is said it flows uninterruptedly like the stream of a river, actually there is interruption. So, whenever there is the cognitive process, whenever there is vitichetas, bhavanga flow stops, and then after the vitichetas have expired, then bhavanga takes up again. So in one life we have bhavanga chetas and then vitichetas belonging to thought processes, and then bhavanga chetas, vitichetas, bhavanga chetas, and so on. Being an essential factor of existence of life, this consciousness is called the life continuum. So the cheta which arises, let us say, uninterruptedly all through life, that means when there are no cognitive process. So that consciousness is called life continuum because it is an essential factor of existence. That means if it does not arise, that existence would have come to an end. That is why it is called a constituent of life. The Pali word bhavanga. Bhava means life and anga means a part, constituent part. So a constituent of life. That means if it does not arise, then life would have ended immediately after Patisandhi or something like that. So this is called bhavanga. And at the end of life, having become the dead consciousness on the occasion of passing away, that means functioning as dying, performing the function of dying, it arises as death consciousness. Now, although it is said that having become the dead consciousness, actually, Patisandhiceta does not become a dead consciousness. Dead consciousness is another consciousness, but of the same type. So since they are of the same type, here it is said, having become the dead consciousness. But that does not mean that Patisandhiceta becomes the dead consciousness. So Patisandhiceta arises and disappears, and then the same type of consciousness arises as bhavanga. And all through life, the bhavanga arises, and then at the end, when death comes, then it arises again, and at that time it is not called Patisandhi or bhavanga, but it is called death or chuti. So, not that Patisandhiceta has become the dead Cheta, but this same type of consciousness arises, which now perform the function of dying. So, having become the dead consciousness on the occasion of passing away, it then ceases. So, it arises at dead consciousness and then it ceases. Thereafter, the rebirth bringing consciousness and the others continue to occur. Then again, following the death, there is rebirth. Revolving in due sequence like the wheel of a car. So it goes on and on and on. So in one life there is Patisandhi, and then Bhavangas and Vitichetas, and then Chuti, and then immediately following Chutis there is Patisandhi in another life, and then Bhavanga and Chuti, and then Patisandhi, Bhavanga and Chuti. So in this way, this wheel of life goes on and on and on, until one becomes a Buddha or an Arahant. So, the cognitive process, the first in the new life, takes an object, the rebirth linking consciousness. The javanas consist in sense via chetas rooted in greed. So, immediately following the Patisandhi chetas, there are bhavangas. And immediately following the bhavangas, 15 or 16 moments of bhavanga, there is one thought process. And in that thought process, 7 javanas arise, and these 7 javanas are always rooted in greed, lobha, and dissociated from wrong views and unprompted. So, they are detikata, vibhyota, asankharika. And it is not mentioned in the original Pali treatise, original Pali, what do you call that? Manual. but it must be so. When this process ends, the bhavanga again arises and perishes and continues thus whenever there is no intervention of a cognitive process. In this way, the stream of consciousness flows on from conception until death, and from death to new birth, revolving like the wheel of a car. So it goes on and on. So this is the samsara. The next is the breach of the samsara. Just as here, so again in the next existence, there arise rebirth, living consciousness, life continuum, cognitive processes, and death consciousness. Again, with rebirth and life continuum, this stream of consciousness turns round. That means goes on and on. This is the same as the paragraph given above. But the next one is for the breaking of samsara. The wise, disciplining themselves long, understand the impermanence of life. So the wise understand the impermanence of life, and so they make they discipline themselves long, that means they practice meditation for a long time, and they realize the deathless state, so they realize Nibbana, and completely cutting off the fetters of attachment. So when they realize deathless state, they completely cut off the fetters of attachment. That means they completely destroy mental defilements and attain peace. So they actually, in the Pali it is said, samam is santi. So they will attain peace. That is, understanding this round of rebirth, or understanding the nama and rupa involved in this round of rebirth as impermanent, people, they will make effort and discipline themselves for a long time, and then they, as a result of their practice of meditation, they will realize the deathless state, or they will realize Nibbana. At the same time, completely cutting off the fetters of attachment. So at the moment of enlightenment, the fetters of attachment, or not only attachment actually, all mental defilements are completely cut off or eradicated. So the fourth chapter and the fifth chapter deals with thought processes concerning both in life and at death. And the fifth chapter also gives us a description of their karmas and the result of karmas, and also the cosmic system taught in Buddhism. And it ends with the description of samsara, or round of rebirth, and then ultimately with breaking that round of rebirth and realizing a deathless state, which is Nibbana. So in the next chapter, at the end of the next chapter, we will know something about Nibbana. Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.